Well, it's going to be a good day on the program. We got a lot of positive energy here. We got a lot of cheerfulness. We're going to be happy. We're not going to be grumpy. We're not going to be grumpy like people are. Like there's a lot of grumpy people on Twitter lately. Possibly grumpy people that have heard one of our programs and not liked the content of same. Possibly grumpy. They may have been up late at night, having a little bit of the bubbly. Brian, let me ask you a question. When you delete a tweet, does that generally indicate that the response to a aforesaid tweet was not of the vein that you were hoping it would be?
Well, I don't know if it necessarily would reflect a response, but it certainly reflects that you may regret that you tweeted it out.
Well, the only reason you'd regret you tweeted it out is when a bunch of people hopped in and say, you know what, he's right, and things and such of that nature, and going against your statement or your meaning or your attempt at somehow gaining some ground back, or just you're venting your frustration because someone told the truth. One of those things. Should we tell the people what we're referring to?
I think so. I think a lot of people may have figured it out. A lot of people may have noticed this before it was deleted.
Well, I did retweet a screenshot that one of the Cult of Cornette members was good enough to send me, so it's out there if you want to find it. But basically what has happened is, on the experience this past week, the highly popular, wildly successful Jim Cornette experience, we reviewed, as we usually do, some of the recent television offerings from some of these so-called wrestling promotions these days. And one of them was the fact that, as a member of Twitter did comment on, Chris Jericho's 30th anniversary television celebration match was against a fat, pale, 50-plus-year-old man that hadn't wrestled to anybody's knowledge in 20 or 25 years, but they're friends. And we reviewed the match, and hours after, apparently it must have been late that night, because I was off of Twitter, because I go downstairs after a nice hard day's work here in the Cornette's Collectibles mines, and I've shut off the outside world. So late that night, hours after the experience aired, and we gave these comments and opinions, Chris Jericho tweeted, well, Cornette's knocking my matches again, but it's okay because AEW is wildly popular and I'm entertaining the masses, but if Jim would just get his head out of his ass, we'd probably offer him a consultant's job. That was basically the gist of the tweet, wasn't it?
It was basically that he is extremely proud of his shitty work over the year so far, over 2020. And if you would just pipe down for a little while, you'd probably get paid for it.
So here's the brabbery, attempted brabbery now is added to the shenanigans of their, is that not basically saying, if you just stop telling the truth, we'll pay you? For one thing, I know he was pissed because I criticized a match he had with his friend, and it's wonderful they're friends. I mentioned that I have plenty of friends that I wouldn't book in wrestling matches. John Fell in Baltimore came to mind. So he's mad because I criticized his match, but that is in effect proving my point. If I will shut up telling the truth, they will pay me. Apparently, that's the line of when you got the billionaire backer, I guess that's what you do. And that might account for some other people that we'll talk about shortly that joined the conversation. But what's a boy to do, Brian? They cannot, either it's, oh, he's just doing this as a gimmick, because he wants views and hits and listens. Then we did the math and we did the shows and we proved that I'm bringing a couple 100,000 people to their program just to see if it's really as rotten as we say it is. And then they report back that indeed we were telling the truth.
And if we were just doing things just for hits and listens and downloads, we would be doing Raw every week. Period.
Yes.
Because there's no comparison with how popular those segments are to AEW.
But, here's the problem with that. Besides the fact that's another rotten wrestling show that I don't want to watch because Raw is rotten. No doubt about that. For all the people who say, well, he takes up for the WWE, I'd like to know when. Except for their production crew. But besides the fact that Raw is rotten, Raw didn't come out a couple of years ago and make all these big announcements about how they were going to have this great revolutionary new sports-based wrestling show, bringing statistics and analytics into the presentation with a sports-based fucking outlook on things. And it was going to be just the greatest thing since fucking grandma got those fucking false teeth so she could eat corn again. They didn't do that, so we're not fucking holding that against them. We are watching the program that said they were going to be revolutionary and the greatest thing since grandma's fucking teeth. And she, you know what? She's still gumming the hell out of that corn. They either have to say it's a gimmick, he's just doing this, he doesn't really believe this, because it makes them, not only it makes them feel better, but also it does some damage control, spin control, I think the politicians call it. Because it makes the fans that buy the rest of their shit will buy that. And that's what Cornette really doesn't believe this because they're great. He just says that. That's their damage control. Or they have to, well, he's bitter. He's angling for a job, or he's bitter they wouldn't give him a job. That horse left the barn a long time ago. Once again, I have to tread somewhat lightly because we know, Brian, from late night phone calls to and from Stephen P. New that they're touchy about that non-disclosure agreement that I signed with them. About how long they've been on TNT now? About 2 years ago is when that was signed, because they've been on television for a year.
They're very sensitive about that. They're very sensitive. I don't know what they're afraid of you revealing. I mean, that's the other.
Well, no, there ain't nothing else to reveal.
What is Tony Khan afraid that you'll say that he told you? I think the listeners would love to know. I wish they would release you from the non-disclosure agreement.
There's nothing else to reveal, because then I'd have to remember all the other shit that he was blathering at me that I was like, Here's the thing. I've never said they were not going to do this. It was entirely plausible that a family that owns a professional football team and professional sports leagues in other countries and stadiums and arenas and things like that would be, as the story I believe has been told by Mr. Khan himself at a party with Kevin Riley and the Turner Networks, and boom, and it was a surprise. I think has been told also to the new Turner executives that they actually had Vince McMahon's competition 20 years before that. Nobody there really knew that because wrestling wasn't on their mind at the time. But anyway,
they don't even know who Ted Turner is.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it was a Turner. When was it? Anyway, I never said he couldn't get the show on the air. And I never said that he didn't have the money to back the thing, blah, blah, blah. So where I differed in his presentation was when, I believe, as I've said, and I'm not revealing anything here, when he told me who he was going to be in business with. And that's when I knew that this was not something that I was going to be involved with, because I knew what it was going to look like. And I'm pissed that they proved me right. That's why I'm pissed about AEW. As I've said this before, but maybe it bears repeating, and I haven't said it for about a year now, so we've got a bigger audience. It pissed me off that instead of taking the ability to talk to a fucking guy at Turner Networks and just get a network cable show, and the financing that nobody else has to sign, seemingly, one would think, any professional wrestler in the world that's not signed to the WWE might be available to somebody with that bankroll if they knew how to do things. And all of those assets were going to be used in a shit show because of who was involved and who their friends were going to be that they were going to hire, and the style of presentation that it was going to be done as it proved me wrong, right? That's why I'm pissed, because they haven't. You could have taken that, as I said, all those assets, and you could have got wrestlers, and you could have presented a product such as Ring of Honor has presented, or certainly something more respectable to professional wrestling than what we have gotten with the All Friends Wrestling Alliance. And that's why I'm pissed. It's a wasted opportunity. In this generation, in many of our lifetimes, nobody's ever going to just be able to talk to a guy at Turner Network and get a show on the air again and have the money to do all these things, especially through a pandemic, and do a worse job at it. No, nobody's ever going to have this opportunity again, and they're fumbling the fucking ball because they hired the friends, relatives, acquaintances, and paramours of the Central Goof Patrol that he's got as his brain trust. And so that's why I'm pissed at them. It's not that I didn't want, that's my first comment to Tony Khan the first time I ever spoke to him on the phone was, Tony, I'm the only one that'll tell you the truth because I don't want a job. 2 years ago, I was 57. Now I'm 59. That's almost 60. I was not going to be definitely getting on airplanes and flying around or driving around to a wrestling promotion, events that were being held all over the country, regardless of who it was fucking for. Not interested in that. Am I going to stay home and write my thoughts down via email or phone them in and take a check for it? Well, if it was a goddamn real promotion, Pinocchio, absolutely. If there was a way I could help, but how the fuck? You couldn't do anything with this show that they're doing if you were on the fucking ground there, unless the first thing was fire half the fucking roster and start over. So sending thoughts in on a show like this when those people are on the scene, it's like telling somebody over the phone how to cook a cheeseburger. You don't get to stand there and watch. You don't get to smell it. You don't get to take a bite of it when it's done. And they're probably not going to do it right to begin with. So they're just sending you money to send them shit that they're going to ball up and fucking toss away. And I don't want money like that. Because then I feel like I'm wasting my time. So there was never going to be any goddamn arrangement here. Especially, as I've mentioned, after I saw their first fucking program.
But if you had wanted it, it would have been there. That's another key point.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying that, but the point is everybody thinks they have their own reasons. They can't imagine somebody just out here just telling the truth because I don't give a fuck, and I'm tired of people wiping their fucking feet on the wrestling business. And I praise the people who respect it and who approach their profession in a serious way and who have talent and who are doing their best to get over. And I shit on the people who are goddamn jokes and imbeciles and wink, wink, nudge, nudge wrestlers and cosplayers and have matches with inanimate objects and the Invisible Man because that's the way I really fucking feel. And the problem with everybody's fucking trying to figure out why is Cornette doing this is they cannot accept, they can't start with the fact that, yes, we do suck. And yes, this does suck. And whether 100,000 people watch it or 1 million people watch it or 10 million people watch it, that's not even what he's talking about. He's just telling us we suck. And that can't be true. So he's got to have an ulterior motive. I got news for you, simpletons. Start thinking simpler. And I'm sorry, Chris, that I didn't like your match with your friend. I would have booked it in Smoky Mountain Wrestling because it meant something to you. I would have put it on OVW TV because that's local television and a wrestling school. But to put that fucking guy on national cable on a new promotion that's supposed to be in competition with the WWE just because he's your fucking friend, that's irresponsible. Fiduciarily irresponsible. Fiscally irresponsible. Physically irresponsible. He got so blown up he could have fucking killed poor. Did you see him try to do the old Dick Murdoch thing where he comes off the top with a knee in the guy's back and rides him down? He was beside Chris because he knew he'd fucking kill him if he fell on him because he was so blowed up and sucking wind so bad. So he just came down next to him and Chris had to kind of face smash his own self. But the point is, I do apologize if I hurt Chris's feelings But everybody that thinks that I want a fucking check or a job to shut up, that ain't going to happen. For everybody that thinks I don't really think this and I'm working a gimmick, you really do suck that bad. And listen, what's for all the rest of those people? Basically, just fucking deal with it. Goddamn. A lot of people have said bad shit about shit that I've done on fucking television. In their case, they were wrong. However, it's their opinion. But mine is mine.
It was a little revealing, too, in that tweet that Chris has since deleted. That it was basically, if you just put your head down and shut up, we'll pay you. If you just sell out everything you believe in for a little while, like some other people may have done, we'll pay you. Which I think says a lot about Chris's attitude with AEW, because for years it was, I'll never work against Vince. I'll never work for anyone but Vince. Wait, how much will you pay me? How much? Oh shit, Vince who? Who's Vince? I hate Vince. Give me that money. Give me that bubbly.
Well, but don't put it all on Chris, because there's a number of people that are taking that money. Does anybody, goddamn, one time somebody said to me, well, I get bored sitting at home. How? I've been sitting at home for 6 months. I'm almost ready to have a nervous fucking breakdown because I got all kinds of shit to do. And if I didn't have all kinds of this shit to do, I'd have plenty more shit to do that I'm not doing right now.